Hello, everybody. Welcome back to On the Way with Ocean Vale Mortgage and Finance. I'm your host, Nolan Smith, and this is another episode, episode 4 to be exact, and this is a really good one, and this is something that actually one of the first ideas I had when I was doing this podcast idea was to do something about this. And so I'm really excited to bring it to everybody. And before I get into it, I just wanted to get everybody out there listening and watching. Head to the whichever platform you're watching or listening to this on: Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, YouTube. Subscribe, get the notifications as these things keep rolling. We're giving out as much info as we can and helping all the realtors that are listening. And you cannot fall behind. If everybody out there, your competition, is getting this information and you are not, you are slipping. And I don't like that for you. So make sure to get notifications for when we drop new eps. So this is episode 4, and this is going to be great. So I want to talk about something that is literally on everybody's mind all the time, being realtors, and us too, and buyers: how to get more money lent to you when you're buying a home. Over the past, I think it's been probably a hot 5 or 6 year streak here, where it's just skyrocketed and leveled off, and then skyrocketed and leveled off, and then skyrocketed. And home prices here in Nanaimo have just been, going up and up and up. The government has been putting in regulations to really inhibit borrowing power from a lot of our clients and yours, and it's just a kind of a recipe for disaster. It's prices are going up, regulations are coming in, people are having a harder time qualifying, and there are things out there to battle against this and to get our clients and your buyers more money to get into the home that they want to get into rather than settling. Also, I know that, it's tough as a realtor to be pinned to a budget that the client is telling you they're maxed out at. We get a lot of feedback, and realtors tell us that clients are being told they can qualify for one thing, and you guys are having such a hard time finding something in that budget for them that checks all their boxes, and it's everything. It's the neighborhood, it's the layout, it's the garage that they want, it's the yard, and you're having a hard time finding that place with the budget that they're telling you they're approved for or pre-approved for. So there's other options, and there are ways to get more money for your clients. Well, not you, but us, to get more money for your clients to buy more home or to increase their budget. So let's get into that. Now, before I get into how, I just want to explain one thing that you need to understand. You need to understand what debt ratio is, okay? Debt ratio is the percentage of one's income paired up against what their monthly expenses are after they get the new home. So the hypothetical purchase. So to break that down in really simple math, here is an easy equation just to illustrate what debt ratio is. So let's assume, and I'm going to use super small, easy numbers. This is not realistic, but this is just so you can kind of understand what debt ratio is. Let's say a client makes $12,000 a year gross, okay? $12,000 per year gross income, because lenders look at gross income when qualifying. That's $1,000 a month. So $1,000 a month. Now, if the new mortgage payment that we're hypothetically looking at when we're budgeting them, plus their monthly heating cost, plus their monthly property tax cost, and their payments of their current debt monthly, if that all adds up to $500 a month, and they're making $1,000 a month, 50% debt ratio. It's that simple. Okay, that's what debt ratio is. Now, lenders, banks, main institutions with, the best rates and the most competitive rates, and the ones that do the majority of the business, like the banks and the monoline lenders, they will allow somebody to go up to 44% debt ratio. So that would be, in that example, monthly payments of $440 on a $1,000 a month salary. 44%, that's the max. Now, what's happening is possibly a lot of your buyers are either talking to banks or maybe inexperienced mortgage agents that don't know that there are alternative options. Lenders that can go up to 50, 55%, 60%, even more sometimes, debt ratio. So in that example, the $450 new monthly payment with mortgage and all that stuff is $440 is 44%. Well, we can push that mortgage budget up, creating a new payment of, let's say, $600, and they can qualify for that. So 60%, and I know that sounds really high, but I want to also mention that there are models in place right now when qualifying that we have to do according to the government, which is like stress testing. So any rate that they can qualify for, we have to add 2% to that, which inflates their payments on paper. And that is what's used in the equation. So there's a buffer zone there. 60% sounds really high, but a lot of the time, it's 60% of the income that they can show. There might be other streams of income, and they can laugh that they can't get a mortgage because they have so much money, but the money they're getting might not be provable on paper. So these alternative lenders that can go up to 60%, look at those other alternative sources of income to make sure that obviously they're not pushing people out of a comfortable zone. So the other thing too is that you might feel like, well, if they're paying so much of their income towards their mortgage, they might not be able to afford that. But there are many factors to look at when it comes to debt servicing and at the time of origination. And the debt service ratio and payments are only like a secondary predictor of defaults. These lenders that sort of go up to higher higher debt ratios, they really look at credit score, they look at loan to value, which is the percentage of the loan compared to the price of the home. So your loan to value, let's say it's $1 million property and you're borrowing $800,000, that's 80% loan to value. So they look at loan to value, they look at credit, they look at liquid assets, and also for loss mitigation, they look at the property, which is super important because as these lenders allow more flexibility to, let's say, a higher risk sector of borrowers, there comes loss and default is higher than it is in, let's say, the bank channels. And in the case of like default or foreclosure, in the small, instances that happens, they need a property they can foreclose on, sell, and get their money back out of, just to kind of protect their systems and their business model and keep lending to borrowers that, otherwise couldn't get into those sorts of homes. So property location, credit, liquid assets are actually more important than their actual income, believe it or not. But of course, they make sure it's serviceable and they can make their payments and stuff like that when they're getting up to these higher debt ratios. So there's obviously a lot of caution taken, but they just have a little bit more flexibility. So I'm just now going to give you an example of what this can do for your buyer's budget. If you have a buyer that's saying, I only have, let's say, a budget of $400,000 that I can get, you've got to probe a little bit to see who is giving them that budget. If it's a bank, you have to get them over to a broker, preferably us. Even if they're talking to a broker and they say, a mortgage agent or a broker got me this budget, there's no harm in getting a second opinion because all brokers are not created equal. Let me tell you that right now. There are brokers out there that don't really dabble in the B markets and alt markets, and there are a lot that do, but all brokers aren't the same. So it's always worth a second opinion. If you're having budgetary constraints, it's always worth getting a second opinion. So Let's say I'm going to do an example of what this will do to your buyer's budget right now. I'm going to be specific with numbers. I'm going to give you an example for one buyer and then two buyers being like co-applicants buying at the same time. So the average income in Canada right now, well, as of 2022, is $59,300. So let's say they're in a bank and that's what they make, and they have a 20% down payment. This is important because alt lenders only lend at 20% down or more, okay? They don't do the high ratio stuff. That's all government backed. They don't do that. I'm talking about 20% down. Let's say they're at 44% maxed out with the banks, and they're saying, I can only get a purchase price of $320,000. You need to probe and say, have you talked to a broker? If they say no, get them to us, because with these alt lenders, we can get that purchase price lifted up to $450,000. That's $130,000 more for one person to go from something they're trying to get that's not working to possibly what they are exactly looking for. That's one borrower. Let's say there's two. So we multiply the average income of $59,300 by 2. So you're at $119,600 is the total income on the application. At the banks, with a maximum 44% debt ratio, you're looking at maxing out at about $700,000 of a purchase price with a 20% down payment. If they come over to a mortgage professional like us and we can get them done at an alt lender, which if they're approved at the bank, I'm telling you they're going to be approved at the alt lender because they're way more flexible. We can lift that $700,000 purchase to $950,000. That's $250K more that they are able to go out and use to purchase a home that they would settle for against a home of their dreams. So an extremely potent tool, an extremely important thing to know, that what the client says they are pre-approved for and the budget they're telling you is not the end-all be-all. There are other ways to work around and find lenders that will give them more money. Now, a caveat is to this, there are more upfront costs to this. These lenders charge fees and the rates are a bit higher. So of course, while we're looking at these deals with our clients, we make sure they're comfortable with the payments and everything else and the upfront costs. The good thing is these alternative lenders, we can put them in a 1-year term with these guys or 2 years, 1 to 2 years. And then by then, if their income has increased or if rates have come down and it's easier to qualify because rates are a little bit higher right now. So if they come down and their income goes up, we can switch them from a B lender to an A lender, get them an A lender rate after a year or two. We do it all the time. So that is just an ace up your sleeve. You need to know if you're hitting your head against the wall trying to fit your clients into homes according to a budget they told you that they can only get approved for. So that is it. That's the end of this episode. I love to keep them short. I love you listening when you are running around town, appointment to appointment. I love to give you bite-sized morsels of really good information that can potentially help you in your job and do better for your clients. That's why I'm doing this. I hope this has helped you. To summarize, a pre-approval budget is not set in stone until you talk to somebody who knows what they're doing with access to many resources, i.e., Ocean Vale Mortgage and Finance. Or if they have a relationship with a broker, get them to press their broker. Or if you have a relationship with a broker, make sure you're pressing them over from banks over to them. Second opinions are everything in this business. And we have to work harder to push everything and overturn every rock to make deals work for our clients. That's like the heartbeat of this company anyways. And I'm sure the heartbeat of your business model. You're here to serve your clients, do what's best for them. And this is definitely something that helps you do that. Thank you so much for tuning in. Again, it's Nolan Smith with Ocean Vale Mortgage and Finance. This is On the Way. I hope you're on the way to make a sale right now. I hope you're on the way to ink a deal. That's a slam dunk. And I hope you're on the way to be more successful. Remember to subscribe, get your notifications, check us out all the time, and look for new content. Cheers.